Imagine a room with no windows. A heavy oak door, locked firmly from the inside. There is no ventilation shaft wide enough for a human, no hidden trapdoors beneath the floorboards. It is a perfect, sealed box. On the night of October 14, 2018, investigative journalist Elias Thorne walked into his basement darkroom, turned the deadbolt, and simply ceased to exist. To this day, the police have no suspects, no body, and no logical explanation for how a grown man could evaporate into thin air. But what makes the Elias Thorne case truly terrifying isn't the fact that he vanished. It's the single, chilling piece of evidence he left behind, floating quietly in the chemical bath. Elias was a man completely consumed by his work. For 3 agonizing years, he had been quietly investigating a string of historical disappearances in his isolated fog-draped town of Oakhaven. He rarely slept, fueled by black coffee and a manic desire to connect the dots of a puzzle only he seemed to understand. His wife, Sarah, later told police that in the final weeks leading up to that fateful night, Elias had become deeply paranoid. He claimed he was being watched by something he couldn't quite describe. He covered every window in the house with thick, blackout curtains. He changed the locks twice. He told her, in a hushed, trembling voice, that he had finally figured out how they were getting in. But he absolutely refused to explain who or what they were, claiming the truth was too dangerous to speak aloud. On that rainy October evening, the storm outside was howling. Sarah was reading in the upstairs living room when she heard the unmistakable, sharp sound of Elias's vintage camera flash from the basement below. A bright, sudden pop that seemed to echo through the floorboards. She called his name down the dark stairwell. There was only silence. She walked down and knocked on the heavy darkroom door. Nothing. The silence on the other side felt incredibly heavy, almost unnatural. A creeping sense of dread washed over her. Panic setting in, Sarah ran to the garage, grabbed a heavy iron crowbar, and spent the next 10 minutes desperately splintering the solid wood around the deadbolt. When the door finally swung open, the dim red safe light bathed the empty room in a sinister, blood-like glow. Elias was completely gone. The room was perfectly intact. There were no signs of a struggle, no overturned chairs, no spilled chemicals. The walls were solid concrete. The lock, until Sarah broke it, had been perfectly, mechanically engaged from the inside. It was a physical impossibility. The local police spent weeks tearing the property apart, bringing in ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, and forensic teams to search for hidden compartments or tunnels. They found absolutely nothing, but as they were packing up their equipment, the lead detective noticed something sitting in the developer tray on the counter. A single, freshly developed photograph. As the damp image was carefully brought out into the harsh fluorescent light of the hallway, the blood drained entirely from the veteran detective's face. The photograph was of the darkroom itself. In the dead center of the frame was Elias. His face was contorted in absolute, primal terror, his eyes wide and staring directly upward. But the truly horrifying part wasn't just Elias's expression. It was the angle of the photograph. The picture was taken from the top, far corner of the room, looking straight down at Elias from the ceiling. A ceiling that, investigators confirmed, was made of solid, unyielding concrete. There was nowhere for anyone to stand. Elias's vintage camera was missing from the room. He couldn't have possibly taken the picture himself. So, who or what was hovering in the corner of that locked room, holding the camera? And more importantly, when the flash went off, where did they take Elias? The darkroom remains permanently sealed to this day. Sarah still lives in the house above it. She refuses to move. She says that on some nights, when the wind dies down and the house is perfectly quiet, she can still hear the faint, sharp pop of a camera flash coming from beneath the floorboards.